The Arizona sun was sliding toward the jagged hills when Caleb guided his tired horse off the trail. He had ridden since dawn, dust coating his coat and throat burning with thirst. When he spotted a glimmer of blue between the mesquite trees, he thought his luck had finally turned. The lake lay quiet and untouched, its surface smooth as glass, hidden from the world like a secret. Caleb dismounted, loosening the reins, and stepped closer with his canteen in hand. A sudden splash made him stop. Across the water stood 3 Apache women at the edge of the lake, clearly startled but standing their ground. Long dark hair clung to their shoulders, and their eyes locked onto him with a mix of shock and fierce dignity. Caleb instantly realized what had happened and felt his face grow hot with shame. He turned away at once, raising his hands. "I didn't know anyone was here," he said quickly. "I swear I meant no harm." The eldest of the 3 stepped forward, her posture proud and unyielding. Her gaze was sharp, measuring him. "This lake is sacred," she said, her voice calm but heavy with meaning. "No outsider comes here by accident." Before Caleb could respond, the youngest moved closer, her hand resting on the hilt of a small blade at her waist. "You saw us," she said coldly. "That cannot be undone." A third woman, quieter than the others, lifted her hand to still her sister. She studied Caleb carefully, as if searching his soul rather than his face. The air felt thick, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. "In our people's law," the eldest continued, "a man who sees women bathing in this place must take responsibility for what he has taken with his eyes." Caleb swallowed hard. "I'll leave," he said. "I won't speak of this to anyone. You have my word." The eldest shook her head slowly. "It is no longer that simple." She stepped closer, her reflection rippling in the water between them. "You must marry us." Caleb stared at her, certain he had misheard. "Marry you?" "All 3, the youngest added, her voice sharp. "Or answer to our tribe." The word struck him harder than any bullet. He had crossed deserts, survived gunfights, and outrun the law more than once. But nothing had prepared him for this. The lake, once peaceful, now felt like a trap woven by fate itself. As the sun dipped below the hills, Caleb realized his life had just taken a turn from which there was no easy escape. Caleb was led into the Apache encampment before night fully fell, walking between 2 armed warriors, whose faces showed neither hostility nor mercy. Fires flickered across the clearing, and the smell of smoke and roasting meat hung in the air. Conversations died as he passed, dozens of eyes following the outsider who had wandered where he did not belong. Caleb kept his head high, though his pulse thundered in his ears. The 3 women walked ahead of him. The eldest spoke with the elders first, her voice steady as she explained what had happened at the sacred lake. The youngest added sharp details, her words edged with anger, while the quiet sister spoke little, choosing each sentence with care. The elders listened in silence, their faces lined with age and hard-won wisdom. When Caleb was finally allowed to speak, he stepped forward into the firelight. "I crossed into your land without knowing," he said. "But I did not come to insult your ways. I turned away the moment I realized my mistake." He paused, then added, "I won't be forced into marriage by fear, and I won't force myself on anyone either. If there is punishment, I will face it." A low murmur spread through the gathered tribe. Some scoffed, others watched him with new interest. One elder rose slowly and studied Caleb as if weighing him like a stone in his hand. "Words are easy," the elder said. "Honor is proven by what a man does when he believes no one is watching." The decision was made before the fire burned low. Caleb would remain with the tribe for 1 full moon. He would hunt, work, and live among them. If he disrespected their customs or tried to flee, his fate would be sealed. If he proved himself honorable, the law of the lake would be reconsidered, not erased, but shaped by choice rather than force. The days that followed tested him in ways no gunfight ever had. He rose before dawn to help gather wood and track game through harsh terrain. He shared food he hunted himself and refused special treatment. When a pair of bandits approached the edge of the valley, Caleb warned the warriors instead of slipping away in the chaos. Slowly, suspicion softened. The quiet sister watched him often, curiosity in her eyes. The eldest questioned him about his past, and though he gave little away, he never lied. Even the youngest, sharp-tongued and wary, began to lower her guard. As the moon grew fuller each night, Caleb felt the weight of what was coming. The trial was not only about survival, it was about whether trust could grow, where fate had first planted fear. The night of the full moon arrived heavy with silence. The Apache encampment had already begun to move, families packing what they could carry, shadows slipping between the trees like spirits. Scouts returned with grim news. Soldiers were riding hard toward the valley, drawn by rumors and old grudges. Fear did not rule the camp, but urgency did. Caleb felt it in the tightened jaws and hurried footsteps around him. At dawn, the soldiers appeared at the ridge line, blue coats cutting through the desert colors. Their leader rode forward, demanding surrender and claiming the land in the name of the government. Caleb recognized the man and the tone, one that left no room for mercy. Without hesitation, Caleb stepped out, placing himself between the rifles and the camp. He spoke calmly, using his past as a scout to mislead them, pointing them toward false trails and warning of dangers that did not exist. His voice carried authority, and doubt crept into the soldiers' ranks. When the standoff broke, it was not with gunfire but with movement. The tribe vanished into the hills, guided by paths the soldiers could never follow. Caleb stayed behind just long enough to ensure the deception held, then slipped away before suspicion turned to bullets. By the time the soldiers realized they had been fooled, the valley was empty. That evening, beneath a sky washed in silver moonlight, Caleb returned to the sacred lake. The three women stood waiting, the water calm once more. The eldest spoke first, her voice softer than before. "You placed yourself in danger for people who owed you nothing." The quiet sister stepped closer. "You stayed when escape would have been easy." The youngest studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "You did not choose fear," she said. "You chose us." Caleb met their eyes, one by one. "I won't bind your lives to mine out of tradition or debt," he said. "If you send me away, I'll go without anger. What happens next must be your choice." The sisters turned to one another, sharing a look that carried more meaning than words. At last, the eldest reached for Caleb's hand. "The law of the lake was meant to protect honor, not destroy it," she said. "We choose you freely." The moon reflected their joined silhouettes in the water, and in that quiet moment the past loosened its grip. What had begun as a sentence became a promise, and a new legend took root. One born not of force, but of trust, courage, and choice. The days that followed the choice at the lake felt unreal, as if time itself had slowed to watch what would happen next. The tribe had settled in a new hidden valley, safer than the last, where cliffs rose like guardians on all sides. Caleb worked beside the others without ceremony, knowing that acceptance was not won in a single brave act but earned again each day. Some still watched him closely, measuring his steps, but fewer eyes held suspicion now. The sisters' lives changed as well. Nayeli carried the weight of leadership more openly, speaking for her family in council meetings. Tala remained quiet but thoughtful, often walking with Caleb along the ridges, asking about the world beyond the desert, towns, railroads, and the strange hunger settlers had for land. Ishka trained harder than ever, pushing herself with bow and blade, determined that no one would ever see her as weak because of the path she had chosen. One evening, a runner arrived breathless with troubling news. A rival band of outlaws, driven west by the army, had begun raiding smaller camps nearby. They were ruthless men who respected no law, Apache or otherwise. The elders debated deep into the night. Moving again would mean hunger and exhaustion, but staying meant bloodshed. Caleb listened, then finally spoke. "They won't stop," he said. "They'll keep coming." "Unless someone stands in their way," he offered, to track the outlaws not alone, but with Apache warriors who knew the land better than any map. Silence followed, then slow nods. This was no longer an outsider offering help. It was one of their own taking responsibility. The confrontation came 2 nights later in a narrow canyon. The outlaws never saw the trap until it closed around them. Arrows flew from the rocks, and when gunfire erupted, it was brief and desperate. Caleb moved with the warriors as if he had always belonged there, covering their retreat and standing firm when the shooting grew wild. By dawn, the threat was broken, and the canyon lay quiet once more. When they returned, there was no celebration, only relief. That night, by a small fire, Nayeli placed her hand over Caleb's heart. "Honor is not claimed," she said. "It is witnessed." Tala smiled softly, and Ishka gave a rare, fierce grin. Caleb understood then that the road ahead would not be easy, but it would be shared, and that made all the difference.